Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Alessandra. Let me make a few comments, and then, of course, I will be available and open for the questions. We have just completed the 8th round of the Intra-Syrian talks. I will give you some ideas and where we are, more or less. You must understand that the deep assessment of this round needs to wait for me to discuss it with the Secretary General in New York, which I'm leaving this weekend, and then a Security Council. So you have to forgive me if I will be still a little bit vague, although I would say what I think. But I will not give you too much of an analysis, because that will depend on the Secretary General discussion with me on the issue that we have seen and heard, and on my discussion with the Security Council. So I remind you that this round has taken place after quite a lot of international activities and diplomacy. We said it the other day. I will just repeat it because it's good to remember. It took place in Da Nang, in Riyadh, in Sochi, at a very high level. And there were also negotiation, discussion between us and others and with the two delegations. So the goal we had, and we still have, was very clear: to bring about real negotiations. In other words, that's what I said at the Security Council, on the full implementation of 2254, because regardless of what people say or different delegation analysis, everybody agrees that the only resolution we have is 2254, and that we talk about full implementation. How to do it, in what form, how accelerated, through what means, is another issue, but 2254. Which I said, and we indicated in the agenda of the meeting, a particular focus on the 12 principles, on constitutional processes and elections, while, of course, elaborating the thoughts on governance and counter-terrorism, which are basket 4 and basket 1. And then never forgetting, pushing for confidence-building measures, such as detainees again, which is a terrible issue which is not moving forward. So what is the assessment? Let me be frank. As you know, I'm a very positive thinker. By now we know each other. We did not achieve these negotiations. In other words, negotiations in reality at the end did not take place. So why? Let me give you the position of the two sides, and then I will make some comments myself. The government. You must have heard Ambassador Jafari gave his own interpretation or version of why he did attend these meetings and when he attended, and I will give you what I heard from him in the meetings. The government has been claiming that the opposition has been putting themselves a precondition due to the Riyadh II statement, which took place in Riyadh, and insist, the government, that such a Riyadh II statement should be withdrawn. Otherwise, they don't talk to them. And also question whether the opposition delegation represented a sufficiently wide spectrum of views. My explanation to try to convince the government to engage with the opposition was one: we are in Geneva, not on the islands. We are not in Riyadh. We are in Geneva. And I will judge what is said in Geneva. Everyone can express their own opinion as long as it's not a precondition. The government then reacted by saying there was a very strong statement upon arrival of the opposition delegation, which in a way reflected some of the points of the Riyadh II declaration. It's true. And therefore, I did express my disappointment with the opposition. And in all fairness, if you look, and you are the best judges, there were several other important, in my opinion, well-calibrated statements where the opposition did not refer anymore to that context, which was particularly annoying to the government.
Can you please check? Thank you.
In spite of that, the government still insisted not wanting to meet the other side, the opposition, and insisting that it did not want even to discuss through us with the other side, in spite of the fact that we have had one meeting almost parallel, as you know, because they felt that I should be imposing on the opposition to withdraw the statement which was done by someone else, not all of them, there were others, in Riyadh too. That obviously was not a logical or possible type of approach, because to me sounded, again, a precondition. Now, on their side, the opposition, which showed up unified, and I think that is an important point that I draw the attention of the government on. The government used to say in the previous rounds, we will not meet the opposition because who are they? They are divided. We don't know who they are. Well, this time, and I think in Riyadh the Saudi authorities did a good job there, frankly, and we were there, Lavrentiev, Ambassador Lavrentiev from Russian Federation was there, I was there. We were able to watch how difficult it was to make in a new type of political environment, the so-called Moscow group, the Moscow platform, the Cairo platform, and the Riyadh old platform to be together. And indeed, they showed up here, and you can judge yourself. Apart from that beginning, which was something I complained about, they've been able to have a common line, a common position, and even in the meetings, a unified position. Mature, in my opinion. Now, they said that they are not putting any preconditions, and that even when it was raised, that issue of Riyadh II, it was their opinion, but they called, in fact, for an open, tough negotiation with different goals, but no preconditions. And in fact, the opposition said that the government is putting a precondition. In other words, we got into this game of conditions, preconditions, which is regrettable. And all this requires a real political will, not this type of ping-pong, particularly from the government side in saying unless someone withdraws that. Why I'm saying that? Because for us in the UN, precondition is when you say, I will not talk to that group or that person unless he or she will do that. That is, in English or in any language, precondition. And that is what the government actually did. Now, I did not see, therefore, a government really looking to find a way to have a dialogue and a negotiate during this round, I have to say, regrettably. I did see the opposition trying to. I really hope that diplomacy, not only ours, will help the government and the opposition to actually do what is expected and was expected. I've been explaining that, quite frankly, to the ambassadors of the P5, the permanent members of the Security Council who are here in Geneva, but I will obviously then elaborate further and ask their advice and the advice of the Security Council when I meet the whole Security Council next week. So we did not have, in spite, believe me, of a lot of effort by my whole team, day and night, with all sorts of creative formulas, we did not have real negotiations. We did, however, have bilateral discussions with both parties. We had 7 meetings with the government and 11 with the opposition. The opposition, in particular, are engaged with us on all 4 baskets: governance, constitutional process, elections, and countering terrorism. And he also gave me some concrete ideas on the so-called 12 essential principles. The government engage with me only on terrorism. We do understand the government has been affected, like all of us, all over the world, by terrorist attacks. And I certainly recognize that even very recently the government has been affected in Damascus and elsewhere by terrorist attacks or attempts of terrorist attacks. But the truth is that there was not one single other subject that they addressed except that one. Whereas we had invited them here to come and discuss 12 points, constitutional process and elections, and then also the other baskets. Meanwhile, on the humanitarian side, while we were having the meetings, as you know, we had still this tragic situation in Eastern Ghouta and elsewhere in the country. And nothing has been moving here or elsewhere on detainees. So that's very much sad to say at the end of a year. I'm planning to go to Astana at the request of the Secretary General at the invitation of the Kazakh authorities. One of the subjects that should be there and are on the agenda, and I hope will be on the agenda, and we will be insisting that is on the agenda, is the issue of detainees, because it's affecting thousands and thousands of Syrians and the so-called missed people or the kidnapped ones and so on. I will probably not elaborate much more because, as you know, I reserve that for next week when I will be talking to the Secretary General and then to the Security Council. But some fundamental points, and then I'm almost through and I will take your questions. There is clearly a desperate need for a real political process under the UN in Geneva to implement 2254. Everybody is feeling that. Secondly, that the Intra-Syrian talks do need to produce some progress on constitutional electoral matters. Everybody had said so, everybody felt so, but in reality we were not able to move. And when we say so, that means that should be implemented through a calm and neutral environment with a credible, all-inclusive, non-sectarian governance arrangements and arrangements to counter terrorism, all implemented under 2254, and that means all the four baskets. That is still the party line. So I'm probably going to reach the conclusion that as a mediator I may need to come up with some additional new ideas regarding on how to actually have key parameters regarding moving forward, particularly on the issue of constitutional issues and on elections. But that will be after I've been consulting Secretary General and the Security Council. We have been hearing also many other voices. So the 2 weeks were not wasted. Apart from the opposition with whom we engaged, and with the government with whom we engaged, sadly, only on one subject, and partially, i.e. terrorism or counter-terrorism, but we had the opportunity of hearing many Syrian voices, the civil society, the Syrian Women Advisory Board, and even this time, very much refugees, because sometimes we forget, but they are 5 million, and they have a voice, and they will be involved both in the constitution and in the elections, both presidential and parliamentary. So all that took place as if they were part, and as far as I'm concerned, part of this period of consultations, which did not end up in negotiations. I would conclude by saying, if you did ask me, a big missed opportunity, a golden opportunity at the end of this year, when in fact there is a clear indication by many sides that the military operations are coming to a close. The Daesh territory is reduced to close to zero. But at the same time, everybody knows, everybody agrees, believe me, because I talk to them privately and separately and publicly as well, that without a clear political process, we risk to not have learned the lesson of Mosul. And we risk to not have what should be winning the peace, not only winning the war against Daesh. So the bottom line is, I was hoping, and my team worked very hard, but due to what I described to you, and I tried to be as objective as I can, is a missed opportunity, a golden opportunity missed. That doesn't mean that, as you know, our motto is, did you try? You failed. They failed with us. You try harder, and you fail better. But we are not going to give up the Syrian people, especially in this moment, when in fact they are expecting that once the conflict is over, there should be some political process, and not preconditions or